In this video, I'm going to go over creating your own Shopify apps. So if you didn't know about the functionality, it's basically the following. You can create custom apps to use within Shopify stores. What you can do with those apps is either have them in your own store, develop them for clients, or just have them publicly available so that any store can use them. As you can see, I'm here in the apps.shopify store. And you can see there is a lot of apps. It could be something for marketing, back office stuff, basically any functionality that Shopify does not offer you out of the box. You can create a custom app for it. So I'm going to create an app, we're going to code it out, we are going to host it, and we're going to configure everything to have the app running. I'm also going to go over the documentation over at shopify.com, and you will also have everything available on my GitHub account. So let me explain how the entire process works. So you have your Shopify store, which is your front store, your point of sale where you have products and everything you're selling. And then you have your admin backend here. And with this admin page, you can configure your store and you can have custom apps. So this is basically if you go into your store here. So those are your store settings. You can install apps. In this case, I have already installed our dev app here. And if you open the app, it's just going to show us our custom app that we have created. So it's just outputting text sample app using React and Next.js. So how does this work? What you have to do is under those apps, so you're going to have a frame, and in that frame you're going to have a full stack app that you are hosting yourself. So the hosting, the front end, the back end, everything around it is hosted and managed by yourself, but it is integrated into the Shopify environment. So you can use the Shopify APIs to have certain things like accessing products from a store, updating products, accessing billing, and so on and so forth. So this is one aspect of it where basically our app is going to live in here. So we can create like just a normal app that is going to, the frame is going to be injected inside of that. And the other part of it is having stuff in the front store. So let's say we create a chatbot, and here we have our management for the chatbot. I don't know, we can update, change settings or whatever. And here we want to have a chatbot actually in the front of the store. So how we would do that is we would inject that JavaScript tag here. If you go into the API documentation from Shopify, you're going to see that there is a way how you can inject scripts. So basically, there is a post request where you post your script. It has to be publicly hosted somewhere. Let's say we host it on AWS. And when that script is hosted there, it gets checked by Shopify, and then you can inject that script here. So that script would, for example, have a chatbot shown up here, and here would be the backend of our application. Since we are not going to deploy this to AWS right now, we're going to use ngrok for tunneling. So what we're going to do is create a tunnel. So we're going to host this locally on our machine, and that is going to be tunneled through ngrok to basically make it publicly available. So let me show that to you. Here I have started ngrok, and if we go to this URL here, it should be publicly available and everyone should be able to see this here. So this is basically just localhost 3000. So our localhost 3000 is being mapped here. So let's actually get started with creating the app. So first of all, there is the official documentation from Shopify. I'm not going to type every single line of code out here, since basically you just have to copy and paste code from here. So if we go into the first part of setting up our app, first of all, you have to have Node installed. You need to create a folder where you're going to create your app. Then we are going to create a package.json file. And in this case, it is going to be an app using React and Next.js. So why are we using Next.js? Because we need server-side rendering. Server-side rendering means that the app is not going to be rendered within the browser, but the server is going to render everything and send basically the rendered page to the user, so to the client. So let's say someone opens our app on their PC and they have a browser running here, and the app needs to be already rendered in the backend so that the rendered page is displayed within this window here that I have mentioned earlier. So you could also use React.js and then set up Node.js to server-side render your React app, but Next.js basically does this out of the box for you. So let's get back to this. You need to install React, React DOM, and Next, and then we start putting in our code. So basically, I have done this already here. This is going to be available on GitHub, but since there is quite a bit of code to get this up and running, I'm not going to type out everything manually here. First of all, you need to create certain scripts for running our app, for building it, and for starting it. So don't worry, this is all going to be on GitHub, and you will also be able to see this on the documentation from Shopify. Then basically everything else is pretty much standard. I'm using Redis here. There are certain dependencies that we need to run. And for creating our app, we first build the app and then we run the dev command. So basically I have PowerShell and Node here. So the first PowerShell node is just running ngrok, which I have showed you here. And the second one, so the second node created is basically our app running on localhost 3000, which is run by npm run dev. Then there is a Redis store that I have created to store certain information, because when we are interacting with the Shopify API, there are certain things that we need to be storing, like auth credentials, certain merchant credentials, and so on. So I have created a Redis store and initialized this in the server.js file. The next thing is node modules and .next can be ignored, because those the next file here gets generated automatically by running it, and node modules is just node modules. Inside of other tools, I have ngrok.exe in the case you want to, I don't know, for some reason you don't want to run it over npm, but you want to just have the Windows version of it that you can run. The next folder are going to be our pages, and inside of pages we're going to have index.js. And this is basically all the functionality that I'm offering right now here. So this is just a simple div with the sample app using reacted Next.js text in it. Then there are env files. So this is our Shopify app URL, the key and secret key, git ignore, and now we come to the most complex part. This is our server.js file, which is quite complex. First of all, we import a bunch of things here, especially the Shopify APIs. So actually you don't need those, but they are going to make your life a lot easier. For example, authentication stuff and so on and so forth are already provided over those Shopify libraries, which are just going to make the development a lot easier. So for example, if you go to the marketplace and see how most apps look like, I don't know, you can see this is how the backend looks like, and there are certain widgets and so on and so forth that are provided over those libraries from Shopify. And one of those is called Polaris, which is going to provide you all the views and modules and certain filtering options and so on and so forth that you can use. For example, let's say you want to load all the products from a shop to do something to them. For that you could be using Polaris. Here we create our Redis store, we initialize our context with all the environment variables that we have provided here. This is some specific Next.js stuff in order to run our server. Then we run server use, where we specify certain redirects. We have our handler here, so this is going to be our root route. Then we have also to add an auth route, and we also have to define our static contents and our rewriting rules. And so here we just have a console log out statement when the server actually starts, because when the server starts we're going to call server listen on a port that we have specified. So basically this is pretty much everything there is to it. When we are finished with this one, it's time to actually get our app running. So in order to get our app running, we need to do the following. Let me first of all erase this here. So we have first of all our app running here locally, which over ngrok is going to be tunneled to be publicly available. Then we're going to create our app within Shopify dev. I'm going to explain how we get there as well. And then we are going to connect this, install that app on our Shopify store. And then it's going to be available. So first of all, you need to create a Shopify account and create a sandbox store. I'm not going to explain this since this is pretty easy. You just go to Shopify and click create store. So that really shouldn't be too hard. When you have done that, you're not going to have any apps here. You can install publicly available apps, but not the one that we are going to create. In order to do that, you also need to create an account at partners.shopify.com. So you basically just type in partners.shopify.com and create an account there. It's basically the same process, you just create an account. Then you go to apps and you create a new app. So in this case, I have created a new app. So basically when you go to create app, you choose public apps and just fill out those information here. I'm going to show you how this information is filled out. So this is the app that I have created. If you go into app setup, you're going to see that you just provide an app URL and allow redirections. With the allow redirections, you just add the auth/callback path. And then you just create the app, and that's basically it. You also need, of course, to copy the API key and the API secret key into your .env file, where it's going to be used in the Shopify.context.initialize function. When you have created the app, you're going to have an option to connect it to a store. So you're going to click select store, and you're going to click on this store and just install the app. It's going to ask you to authenticate. After you authenticate, you should be able to have your development app installed in your dev store. And if you go to the app, you're going to have whatever you have developed there. So I hope this was really useful and showed you how to create apps by yourself for Shopify. You can create the really complex applications. There is a lot of more to talk about this, but this video is mostly to getting you started and installing everything and getting everything running. So if you want a more complex video, or if you have suggestions for certain app ideas, let me know either by email or by commenting in the videos. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video.